We
All
are
right,
live.
we're live. How you doing? Welcome, everyone. This is it. All right, Joe, give me a second. Let me introduce everybody and get everything all tied up. I know you're anxious to get going. You were actually on 5 minutes before. So if there is a prize for having someone who's actually prepared in advance, and I'm not scrambling trying to get him to connect into these simulcasts, you got it. So you can have an extra cocktail on yourself today just because of that reason. So welcome.
Thank you.
So I want to welcome everybody and friends and followers from all sorts of locations. We're ready to kind of get going. This is an amazing opportunity. We've been doing these now for almost, it feels like 4 months. And this is the first time we're having an opportunity to learn more about a gin product. And we have with us Joseph Brooke. Joseph, I'll give you a little bit of a background on it. Is it Joseph or Joe? I just want to.
Joe's fine.
Joe's fine.
My wife
All right.
calls me Joseph when she's angry at me.
Oh, your wife?
Well, when she's angry at me, she says
yeah,
Joseph.
I know the feeling, but I just don't go by a short name. But I know the same feeling. Trust me. Joe is got an amazing background. He's currently the brand ambassador for Fords Gin, and he's been with them since June of 2015. And the really cool thing about why we have Joe on today is because this guy's an amazing bartender. I just read about a lot of the background and what he's been involved with. So this will blow your mind. He was on a nationally televised bartender competition, which he won. And I'm sure maybe he can talk about that a little bit, but I know we're here to talk about Fords Gin. But it's still pretty cool to have like kind of that TV rock star experience. So this guy's a rock star bartender from his past. So that's why he's going to be talking about, how to actually cocktail and make some really cool recipes towards the end of the demo here. And on top of that, after he, got into the television world, he kind of spent a little bit of time working on Bar Rescue. That's a really cool show. I've watched it on and off in the past. And, I'm sure there's some really cool stories there we can kind of have some chat about. But, he's enjoying what he's doing now. He's kind of blending both of his backgrounds, working in cocktails, and he's here to talk about the good gospel of gin. And with Fords Gin, I'm happy to have with us Joe Brooke. Hey, Joe.
Yeah, hello. What an introduction! My goodness, you've explained it all. I could just sit here and bask in the glow.
I mean, guys like you have an impressive background, so that's why it's important for us to be able to kind of go over it and make sure we're not skipping something. But that's pretty cool. How was it that you actually ended up going into that world of televised, bartending competitions and things like that? I mean, I don't know if they're still doing it even at this point. I mean,
they're not so much. It's actually the problem with it is that if it's nationally televised, it has to be on really late. And so most of the people who were watching this show were probably too tired to remember it. It was we learned a lot in the process, but I think nowadays it's really interesting that we're having to pivot to YouTube and all the other sort of the consumer facing places to come up with to be able to continue kind of spreading the word of good cocktails. And gin is absolutely one of those spirits that a hardy few can crack a bottle and just take a pull straight from it as you would a good whiskey or something. But it's a tool meant to be used to make great cocktails. And we're trying to keep that flame lit as best we can through these weird times.
So, tell us a little bit about the brief history of Fords Gin. I mean, gin is a growing segment. I'm sure, there's a lot of people getting into cocktailing, and, now all we've been doing in the past few months is just basically hearing about people cocktailing with, the typical things. And, gin and tonic is a good standby. But, what are the things that, you're going to be previewing today later on? But at least starting point wise, tell us a little bit about the background of Fords Gin and some of the history.
Well, Fords, thank you for asking. Fords is it's a brainchild of our my boss, the guy who signs my checks, Simon Ford, as well as a 10th generation master distiller by the name of Charles Maxwell.
Okay.
He's 10th generation distiller living in London. He's a direct descendant of one of the first examples of commercial gin distillation in London.
Is that right?
So it's very much part of his it's in his bloodstream, you could say. And the two of them partnered up at a time when the craft cocktail scene was really coming to a head. And starting a gin company, Simon had the idea, rather than turning around and telling all of our bartender friends, because I tended bar for about 16 years before I put this hat on. Rather than turning around and telling them, hey, this is what you need to start using, we asked them, Simon asked them, what do you want from us in terms of gin? And they all answered they want a softer style of a London Dry gin. And London Dry is the gold standard, right? And so Ford's is a creation it's sort of a modern take on a very classic style. And we've had a lot of success with it. And we very much, we want to be the cocktail gin.
Okay. So the guys had themselves a background in tending bar themselves, or they just liked, wanted to get into the beverage business, and they figured, gin's the first one that can be the easiest to start off with, or I mean, it's not too many people are getting into the gin segment as a first venture usually, right?
Gin's tough. I mean, you save money on a bottle of gin because you don't have to age it, but to get a really good gin, you really have to do your homework. And there's a lot of fantastic gins out there that taste phenomenal by themselves, but they don't necessarily plug into all of these classic cocktails that have really raised the category. And you've got all the big dogs, the 200-plus-year-old gin recipes that are really kind of still what people use for drinks. And we're not trying to steal the spotlight too much. It's just there's so many people drinking gin these days and drinking proper cocktails that we figure there's enough stage for everyone to share. Ours is an attempt to kind of bridge the gap between the old world and the new without alienating either side.
Did you mention where it's bottled and the plant?
So we distill. We are a London Dry gin. It doesn't need to be from London, but we are distilled at the Thames Distillery in the south of London. We ship it high proof bulk. We cut and bottle in Charbet. So a little over half of what's in this bottle is a product of California, for as long as California has water. This will be.
We're good for right now. We're water positive finally. Knock on wood.
That's nice.
Yeah.
One good thing.
Yeah. So over at the Thames Distillery, have you been there? I'm sure you've been there.
I have. It's like walking through a chapter of Harry Potter. It's so, and if you've ever walked in, walking through a whiskey distillery, if you ever walk past a rick house, you smell the vanilla, the butterscotch. You walk through a gin distillery, and it's like entering a dictionary of scents and flavors, just with all the botanicals. They'll just keep them out. I mean, they're getting these sacks of botanicals that by the kilo, and everything is just so citrusy and junipery, and it's like walking through a jungle.
So that's, I guess, one of the real key signatures of the profile is that there's 9 Ford botanicals, right?
Well, yes, there's 9 botanicals, but really juniper's got to be the king, the queen, the prince, and the princess. I mean, juniper is driving the car. If it's going to be a London Dry, juniper has to be the single most dominant flavor.
Okay.
Around all that, we can kind of assemble the supporting cast. So the backbone is juniper coriander. And then we have 3 different types of citrus. We've got lemon, bitter orange, and grapefruit. And then we have 2 florals and 2 spices to kind of round out our character. And again, we came up with this so that it could pair with all of these classic cocktails that more and more people are drinking. And we got to kind of reverse engineer it. But juniper by far is the owner of this.
So that's the typical formula for the gin. But what makes a London Dry gin?
The London Dry gin, as I said, it was the gold standard, still is. It's the most strictly guarded. All of the botanicals have to be natural. There cannot be any essences or extracts. It has to be whole, dried, or fresh botanicals. Again, it can be made anywhere in the world. It doesn't necessarily have to be from London. The flavors have to be a product of a redistillation. You can distill your own spirit, but that final still run has to have all the botanicals in it. And then once you're done, the only 2 things you can add are water to bring it down to bottle proof, or extra spirit to thin it out a little bit and make a bigger batch, called a multi-shot.
So the Ford's gin is just a clear gin, basically, with juniper and these other botanicals infused into it, right? You don't have any other types of bottling or distillation that brings out a different type of gin?
Well, we have different gins. We've got a Navy strength that I'm going to bother you about as soon as we get it back in. It's rested in sherry casks. But this right here, we steep all the botanicals. We use two pot stills, two 500-liter pot stills. They produce about 200 liters of gin per run. But we steep all the botanicals in those stills for about 15 hours, and then we distill over a 5-hour period. So what comes dripping out is this incredibly viscous and oil-rich botanical. And anyone who tastes Fords, this is one thing we can hang our hat on, is that we have this incredibly rich, silky mouthfeel. And for a lot of gin phobes out there, it's super appealing. That's something that we can woo the Hendrix or the aviation drinker to try something a bit more juniper forward.
You said it's a silky flavor?
A silky mouthfeel. I mean, it doesn't. I mean, obviously, the flavor is still very much gin. One of the highest compliments we've gotten from this by a bunch of gin connoisseurs is that it's like an oil slick at first, just because of how rich and oily it is.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never heard somebody describe a gin as an oily, having an oily component to it. So that it's. I mean, obviously, you probably can taste it if you're going, but I've never heard of that. So that's interesting that you guys kind of say that. That's a high compliment in the gin world.
The soul of the gin is its botanicals, and the botanicals show up in the gin as essential oils. And so the higher the concentration of those essential oils, the more flavor your gin's going to have.
So who defines? So I mean, obviously you can do type of gin that has the juniper forward, as you mentioned, and then kind of put the supporting cast. But how do you define how much of each one of them you're going to blend together into like a bottling?
That's a really good question. It's not like a whiskey where you have a defined mash bill with percentages.
Yeah.
It's a moving target every single time. You just have to make sure you have to make sure that all the botanicals are organic, that there's no extracts used, and that it's a product of distillation, and that juniper is the dominant flavor. There's sometimes the botanicals, there can be a little fluctuation in the quality and the amount used, which is why a gin distiller really, he or she has a very, very complex job, much more so than someone, not that it takes any less skill to distill a single malt or something that's more sort of more emblematic of where it's from. It really, to hit that target every single time, to be able to taste all those botanicals, it takes a lot of skill.
So that seems like they're not following a formula. They're just kind of like feeling their way in terms of like what the instinct tells them is going to be a good combination of the botanicals. And
I do think there is a formula. I mean, we were the first. I mean, I should switch gears a bit, because there is a formula. I'm not saying every time it's like a roll of dice.
Obviously,
every bottle is going to be different. We were one of the first gin companies to list the percentage of each botanical, similar to a mash bill. Because a lot of other companies weren't doing that. Obviously, it's not going to be like that every time,
right?
Because they have to change it by plus minus, because maybe the juniper is a little more forthright versus the citrus. But again, it's a slightly moving target.
See, I'm learning about the little nuances of becoming a better gin connoisseur, and what you just described tells me that now next time I grab a bottle of gin, I'm going to look to see what the mash bill, quote unquote, of the percentages of the botanicals looks like. And if there aren't any bottlings that have that, and Fords does that, that's impressive. That's pretty good. I mean, you are learning about the product, you're educating the marketplace, and certainly gin is a great standalone, or with some tonic, or with any of the things that you're going to show us later on how to make an impressive cocktail. But I think those are all the little differences that are going to make something stand out versus something being extremely excellent, right?
I think so, and that's kind of you to say. The first people we went after selling this brand were bartenders, and they have to put up with so much smoke and mirrors with sales reps and everything, and it can be really sneaky a lot of times, and we don't really know what the truth is behind the distillate. And our goal was to be completely transparent, or as transparent as we could legally be, to give them the information, and also just to sell through education.
Hey, but they had you as a bartending superstar, so you could kind of cut through the crap, right?
I try to. I tend to bring my own brand of crap here and there, just telling bad jokes.
Obviously, I'm just
my time.
No, it's all good. I mean, obviously, we're excited that this is something that is outside for our amateur bartenders at home, right? I mean, it just feels like everybody now is at home learning and experimenting and trying to find, what is that little bit of a different twist that I could do on a standard cocktail or something that, before I wouldn't have a place to go do it. Now I can do it in the privacy of my own home, invite a few people within limits and, enjoy the comfort of experimentation, right? Which is what the whole idea of cocktailing is. It's not just, trying something, it's trying to throw oddball combinations together and seeing how it sticks together. I mean, we just had a guy yesterday was saying that, as his time in a bartending experience was that he had been asked to put some clamshells in a cocktail. So he's like, yeah, for to each his own, I guess, but whatever works is, the bartender's job is to make it happen and make it look good and make it taste good. So
I actually had a delicious martini with an oyster shell washed vermouth. And it
okay. See, then there you go.
We're not all crazy, right? Some of us, it does make sense if you trust us.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the whole idea is that, you guys are the ones that are, behind the counter. We're on the opposite side, learning and watching and drinking. But, by far, 16 years of bartending experience goes a long way. Trust me. I can trust someone with that kind of experience. All right. I've
got the scars to prove it as well.
Little elbow action from doing the tossing and everything.
Oh, all this. I can't even hold a tennis racket at this point, but it's totally worth it.
Yeah, nice. All right, so the guys put the how long has it been out? You said you've been with them 5 years, but when was the actual company founded?
The company, the 86 company, was established in 2012.
Oh, okay.
And then we were very fortunately picked up by Brown-Forman last year, and so we get to join a much bigger family of really good people. And I think there was a lot of whiskey drinkers that were very happy to see a gin that they could start drinking now, especially for how it's been.
Yeah, absolutely. And we love working with the Brown-Forman people. They've been great. We've been doing these with their portfolio, and so this is the third of hopefully many more to come. But we've talked to a lot of the people over at Jack Daniels and Gentleman Jack, and now we're learning more about the Ford's products. So I'm excited. So hats off to the Brown-Forman people, especially Stephanie, who's been kind of really supportive behind the scenes putting this together. So shout out to Stephanie. All right, let's see. So yeah, she's amazing. All right, let's do it. What is the best way to kind of enjoy Ford's gin? Obviously, you said there's a lot of oil forward tastes, and oil forward, I don't know if that's the right word to say, but there's that flavor profile that kind of brings out the botanicals and the oils and the things that kind of really enhance the flavor. So, and you start making recommendations on what we want to get into for the different types of flavor notes.
So think about it as you would, I imagine you sell a fair amount of wine as well. And wine is the perfect example of finding out what grape, what finish will fit the food best. And gin has so much character in it already.
Yeah.
That you think about, of the 9 botanicals, what are the botanicals that you like to taste the most? Do you like the orange peel? Do you just want that slug of juniper? And then you find out what flavors go with that. So my favorite cocktail to make for someone who doesn't really know gin yet is a bee's knees. Bee's knees? A bee's knees. It was one of the only good cocktails to come out of Prohibition, those 13 unlucky years. And it's only 3 ingredients. It's gin, fresh squeezed lemon juice, and honey syrup. And it's kind of like presenting an Old Forester Old Fashioned, where it's so few ingredients, it really lets the guest taste all the nuance of the spirit. And the thing is, honey is such a floral ingredient, and we have jasmine flower in here as one of our florals, and the honey and jasmine pair together so well.
Sure.
Jasmine also shows up in the gin tonic, which we'll make with the effervescence, but it's all about choosing which botanicals to illuminate.
That's interesting. This is the first time I'm hearing. I'm sure there's a lot of cocktails that would have a lot of sweetening agents that you mix into it, but definitely honey as a main ingredient, not as an accenting ingredient. That sounds exciting. I mean, I'm learning so much about participating in these demos and sessions. So let's get into it. Show us. Yeah, go for it. Next time I'm going to have my own cocktail kit so I can do it along with you guys, but I haven't gotten there yet. I'm a little timid, but definitely seeing you guys do it is getting me inspired. A little Tom Cruise cocktail action, maybe.
A couple more of these sessions, I understood it. A couple more sessions like this, and you and I are going to be passing bottles to each other through the camera.
Yeah, exactly. Smell-o-vision, tasting vision.
There you go.
Yeah.
So we have right here fresh squeezed lemons from the backyard because California is the best.
Right.
We've got the honey syrup right here. This is actually, it's a two to one part. So it's 1 part hot water and 2 parts honey. This is orange blossom honey because it ties in really nice with the orange peel in Fords.
Mm-hmm.
We go, let's say about little under an ounce right there. You always want to start with the cheaper ingredients because God forbid you make a mistake. You can just dump it out and you don't have to lose the measure of gin.
Yeah.
We've got an ounce right here, fresh squeezed lemon juice.
Mm-hmm.
And then the money shot right here. It depends, I like to go as close to 50 ml as possible. This right here is probably 1¾ of an ounce of Fords. Now, it's important for the honey to make a syrup. A lot of times people think you can just squeeze the honey in the tin and shake it up, but honey, as you know, that it's so thick that it'll get so cold that it'll actually stick to the side of the tin before it has a chance to fully dissolve.
Right.
Now I'm going to make a little bit of noise. So if you'll excuse me.
It's the best part. Wow.
There we go. And now we've got a nice little chilled cocktail glass right here. I might have seen this one coming.
Do you accentuate the glass at all with anything?
So you can. I don't, only because I think the bee's knees is such a subtle cocktail. I mean, the flavors and the notes are so, it's very subtle, and we could very well finish it with an orange peel or a lemon peel or something. But traditionally, it didn't really have anything. It's just nice to look at, and
I'm sure it smells great.
I'm going to take a sip if you don't mind.
Go for it. Enjoy. Cheers.
The garnish is a great opportunity to further accentuate. Like I have right here, I've got my bowl of citrus. I don't know if you can see it, but we've got some grapefruit, some lemon, some lime. We are such a flexible botanical load in here that if you like the grapefruit zest a little bit more, there's grapefruit peel in here that'll really tie together with it. And so for bee's knees, if you want to take it to a different direction, maybe throw in some berries or some herbs to kind of steer it in a different direction, like we'll see with the gin tonic, you have the ability to do so.
I have a suggestion. The next cocktail you guys make, you should call it the botanical load. That's a great name.
We'll run that by legal first. How about that?
Fine. Run it by legal. Make sure everything is kosher. But I want to see a cocktail coming out next year called the botanical load.
It'll just be like a cup of minestrone, just like nothing, but just like I have to drink it with a spoon.
I've always found that you can enjoy cocktailing and cracking funny jokes, but sometimes the jokes fall flat. So whatever. I guess onto the cocktailing, right?
That's whenever this will do my job way better. If I'm bombing, I can just shake up a bunch of cocktails and everyone will still leave with a smile. So
that's it. All right. So, but in all honesty, why do they call it the bee's knees? I mean, that's an expression that you hear is like, oh, it's the bee's knees. I mean,
she's the bee's knees. Well,
she's the bee's knees.
I love the tongue-in-cheek nature of so many cocktail names. And the bee's knees is really it should kind of like the garnish should suggest a little as to what's inside the glass. The name should do the same. So there's a great. I didn't even know. See, this is I've had 2 sips and I'm already on fire.
Nice.
No, there's a bunch of different cocktails out there like the Last Word, which they don't really suggest what's in them. But if I were to tell you there's a whiskey cocktail called a Gold Rush, right? What do you think would be in it? Like what sounds like it could be a golden kind of hue as a cocktail ingredient?
Oh, really? I was gonna say maybe it has Goldschlager in it, but that's different.
That's more of like a gold
flakes, maybe.
Wall. No, gold brick wall. That's for when you. there's always a good time for Goldschlager, but
nice.
In terms of cocktails, the Gold Rush is actually it's a bourbon cocktail with lemon and honey.
Oh wow!
Because the color of it looks a little bit golden, not as
warm it up, and it's a hot toddy, right?
That's true. Yeah, it would need a little less sugar, a little less citrus to be a hot toddy, but
Nice.
I also this is the nice thing about the seasons. There's an appropriate cocktail for every season.
That's right. Versatility. Some things in the summer can be drank warm in the winter, and then vice versa. So
Yep.
cool. So that's the bee's knees and the traditional standby, typical gin and tonic. I'm sure there's a twist that Ford's Gin has come up with.
Well,
so you're going to show us the gin and tonic next.
You're going to help me with this one.
Oh, really?
Because a gin tonic is kind of like a choose your own adventure that you get to drink.
Okay.
Where that there's going to be 3 ingredients. There's going to be ice.
Yeah.
There's going to be gin, and there's going to be tonic water.
Okay.
I've got our friends at Q. I have this lovely little can of them.
Q mixers.
Q's great. It's a very sturdy. It's a very sturdy tonic. It's good to accentuate with whatever else you want to put on top of it. We can go basic. We've got a bunch of pre-cut limes, but if you really wanted to go off the rails, so we have things like blackberries right here, which pair with the orris root in Ford's. We've got thyme right here and rosemary. These are all sort of herbs and spices that, as you take a sip of the gin tonic, by smelling something else, it kind of does that third thing in your brain where it doesn't. It just becomes so multi-dimensional that it really changes the experience of just a gin tonic.
Let's blow my mind. Let's go for the off the wall. Because I no offense, I mean, the standby gin tonic pour lemon wedge or lime wedge, that's too basic. But you're just kind of getting me so intrigued about how to kind of mix this thing up that I want to see the blow my mind experience.
Well, I don't know if you're going to get that. I am sitting down, but
I know well.
I haven't even. This is the first cocktail I've made in months. That
really?
I immediately consumed myself.
Oh,
what I like to do, as far as the old way that they used to do it, I love bartenders that give thought to everything that they do, and it would be easy for me to dump this full of ice and then pour the gin and top it with tonic. But if I don't do something to mix it up, the gin could theoretically sit at the bottom and all the tonic will be on top.
On the top,
so
right.
those first 2 sips will be pure high octane, and the rest of it will just be tonic. However, if I mix the two,
and then you ice it.
And then you ice it. I've already just mixed it. This is all the
perfect. That's what I was thinking. I go, wait a minute. He's not putting any ice in there. He said he's going to ice. But now I know the reason why. Okay, that makes sense. Perfect sense.
It's not about. I don't call it. Some people call it lazy. I call it working incredibly efficiently.
Yeah, it's the steps, right? It's how you prep it.
Yeah. So we've got right there, and now we've got our reusable straw. The single-use plastic is a thing of the past. Now you tell me how you want this to be garnished, because we've got citrus right here. We've got rosemary. What would you like it to taste?
I've never rosemary and thyme. I mean, that sounds like we're doing a little bit of a Simon and Garfunkel song there, right?
Parsley, gin, rosemary.
Parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. So I don't know what's typical. I don't think you would mix in blueberries there, right? You said, or blackberries.
Well, blackberries don't offer as much on the nose as rosemary and citrus do.
Yeah.
But letting it just sit in the drink, because alcohol is a solvent. Yeah. It will, if you've ever seen a good Spanish style gin tonic, I mean, just sitting there, it'll start to leach a little bit of that flavor. And again, it's not going to be so much that it's just going to taste like a blackberry G&T, but it's just getting that little hint at the end to slightly suggest it toward blackberry. By the way, blackberry and rosemary, they go together very well, and not just because they sound good together.
Right.
But I'm gonna squeeze that lime right here, and I can already tell you that your choices for your gin and tonic are delicious. It's a shame you can't be drinking this.
I know. See, I'm gonna have to go back and watch this and try to do it at home instead of sitting here trying to host this thing. That's why I'm saying you guys have all the fun. I get to sit here and watch and say, God, I should do this next time. So the next session we can do, definitely, I'm gonna have my ingredients in front of me, and we're gonna do this together. So I'm enjoying it as much as I'm asking questions.
I would welcome that.
All right,
this is as fun for me as it is for you, I hope.
Awesome. So this has been, very entertaining and very informative. I mean, I think we learned a little bit about kind of the history of the brand and, where it started and the history of Simon and Charles and, the fact that it's a London dry gin with the 9 different, botanicals kind of being mashed together, but not really mashed together, kind of creating something that's really unique, and the fact that you guys are actually putting it out there and saying, well, we use a percentage of this versus that botanical and this much juniper. So I think these are all things that are really informing and educating. But I would say hands down, the star of this today was the two cocktails you just made. Definitely the bee's knees, and there's a reason why it is the bee's knees. But what did we call this gin and tonic with the berry? Is there a name for it? Just gin and tonic with the berry twist.
The remedy tonic.
Oh, the remedy tonic. All right, I like that. We'll. So we got two homework assignments: the botanical load, and then the remedy tonic. We're gonna see if we're gonna get those cleared by legal, and then we're gonna put those out as official cocktails for the next round.
And if I'm out of a job, you better hire me.
Hey, you're the guy who's the TV star. You're hireable more than anybody else that I know. Trust me. You can go back to your old infomercial reality TV days. There you go.
I mean, you never know, man. Just keep watching the skies.
Yeah, well, hats off to you. Thank you. I appreciate you spending time with us. We're almost at about 30 minutes, but I think this is a perfect way to kind of pause. And I think we've had quite a bit of entertainment and kind of fun banter. But I really appreciate you kind of sticking around, hanging out with us, and teaching us about the fundamentals of putting together a perfect gin and tonic. And I want to thank you, Joe, for your time. I want to thank again the people over at Brown-Forman, Ford's Gin, and stop by Remedy Liquor. We are open. If you want to buy online, visit the website, and we are local. We can deliver, or we can throw it in a package and ship it over to you. So anytime you guys are in the area and you want to stop by the store, feel free. We'll hang out and have some laughs and kind of keep experimenting with the formulas there. So we have an upstairs tasting space that we can do this hopefully in the future in person together with more of our whiskey and our gin enthusiasts coming together and doing this in person. So things to shoot for next time.
Amazing. Thank you. And thank you so much for letting me come play.
Hey, absolutely. Thanks, Joe. I'll see you soon. Be safe.
Yes, you will.
All right. Take care. Thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you guys soon on the Remedy Broadcast Network. Bye.